Oh, hello. It's magic, isn't it? We are live on Facebook. We are
Fantastic.
live on Facebook. Yeah. So just let's check that we are really live on Facebook. So hello, dear friends. My name is Dmitry, and I work for the Dmitry Nikitin School. Welcome to our bi-weekly streams, which we run with ELT celebrities and people who have some knowledge on the English language teaching subject. And normally we try to talk about some interesting, modern, ambiguous issues of the modern ELT industry. And today it's a great pleasure having with us Sue Leather, based in Vancouver, Canada, from UK originally.
Yes.
And Sue and I today we're going to talk about an interesting and important topic of equality in English language teaching, because apart from many other things, being a methodologist, a materials developer, Sue is also, what's your official title in EVE? Equal Voices in
Co-founder, I think that's the
Co-founder of
official.
an organization called Equal Voices in ELT. And because I know the majority of people who are going to listen to our conversations are from Russia, and this topic is not that hot in Russia, equality in ELT. Can we start from the beginning here? Why did you co-found it, or found it, or the correct verb, Equal Voices in ELT, and what is it?
Okay, well, thanks for the question, Dimitri, and lovely to be with you this time distance. So I'm in the morning here, so it's 10 o'clock in Vancouver, and you're 8 o'clock in the evening.
So. 8 o'clock in Sochi, yeah, in
the
evening.
Sochi. It's great, the wonders of technology. So EVE, Equal Voices in ELT, Fiona Morchlin, who's based in the UK, is an ELT person, and I founded it in 2018. And we founded it because we noticed through social media and our knowledge of the field generally, that one of the issues coming out was that conferences and events in ELT would often have, I don't know, panels with, for example, all male speakers. And a lot of people, not only women, but people who identify as different genders and also men themselves were noticing this and talking about it. And so the original idea was that we thought, well, wouldn't it be a good idea if we had an organization which didn't punish anybody, didn't really criticize anybody, but merely gave out badges for conferences and events that did the right thing. In other words, that had a balanced panel for their plenary, for example. So that was one side of it. And then the other side of it was the issue of which language you speak as your first language. So proficient L1 speakers versus people who were born speaking English. And again, the issue there when we looked at conferences was lots of native speakers, sorry to use the term, and not so many local speakers. And again, this was an issue in the profession. People were talking about it. A lot of people who were our L2 speakers were saying, it's not really fair, we don't get a good crack at it, etc. So these were the two issues. So there was the gender issue and there was the L1, L2 issue. And so again, we started giving out badges for conferences that had a good balance of L1, L2 speakers. So as it stands now, you can, for an event, you can get a badge. I think it's the purple EVE for a good gender balance. You get a green EVE for a good L1, L2 balance. And if you manage to get both, you get a platinum badge. So we thought this was, a good idea to kind of reward conference organizers who are doing the right thing. And that's where we started. And certainly in the first year, lots of people contacted us, and we gave away lots and lots of badges, and we're still doing that. So that's where we started. Now, shall I go on?
Why do you think it generally happening? Why do you think in a female-dominated industry generally, almost anywhere in the world, in Russia definitely, English language teaching is an absolutely female-dominated industry, still in many conferences, the majority of plenary speakers are men. Why do you think generally it's happening? What's the reason behind?
I'm not sure. I think there are lots of societal reasons, maybe lots of reasons. I mean, and it's everywhere. I was listening to Eleni Simoniodou, who was talking on ELT Pop, the pop podcast the other day. And she'd done some research into men and women in schools in the UK. And it's quite interesting that she said that 85% of the primary workforce was women, i.e. in primary schools, in UK state schools, and only 73% of them were head teachers. And at secondary, it's a bit worse. 62% of secondary teachers are women, and only 38% of head teachers are women. So that's just one kind of statistic. I mean, my sense is that, I started my quest for if you like, for gender parity many years ago in women in TEFL back in the 80s. And my sense is, and it's just anecdotal, is that things are getting better. I don't know whether I'm becoming more optimistic as I get older, but I think things are getting better, but they're getting better quite slowly. And I think, it will vary from country to country. But there are lots of different reasons for it, I think.
Well, things are definitely getting better, and partly because of there is so much research appearing. And one of amazing books I just read recently was called Invisible Women, and a lot of research like that is appearing, which is good. And then the society is getting more equal, I think, and it reflects our industry.
Yes.
I mean, our industry reflects society.
Yes.
But you mentioned a phrase talking about native speakers. You said, I'm quoting you, sorry to use the term. So native speakers, sorry to use the term. Why did you say that?
I think it's become a bit of a term that's not really used much in ELT in certain areas. In some areas it's used a lot. And it's one that a lot of people get annoyed about because it seemed to be a classist thing where native speakers are somehow above non-native speakers. So in EVE, we prefer to use the terms proficient L1 speaker and L2 speaker. We just do that. I'm not sure that it's perfect. I don't think anybody's come up with a perfect term, but it seems to be less derogatory for many people.
I've heard a collocation, competent speaker. Yeah. Well, yeah. We kept saying here at Dmytro Nikityn School that we do not employ native speakers, we do not employ non-native speakers, we employ English teachers.
Yes.
So, and
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
that's the way it should be.
And you work mostly Equal Voices on ELT. If you work mostly with organizations which provide teacher training and teacher conferences. Is that right?
Are you talking, sorry, about EVE, you mean?
About EVE. So you mentioned badges, which an organization may have from EVE for following gender equality policies, for following native, non-native, L1, L2 language policy, conference policies. Are you talking mostly about organizing events like conferences, training, this kind of stuff?
Yes. But what we've also been doing, so that's kind of if you like, top down. So we noticed that the conference has done the right thing. We give them a badge. They apply to us and we give them a badge. Now, what we've also started doing is kind of bottom up. So we have run a pilot mentoring leadership program with Africa ELTA. And we did that over last winter. So Africa ELTA, which is a teachers organization, used to be called Africa TESOL. They partnered with us and they ran a kind of competition, and they found 8 young, I say young, doesn't matter, female teachers who would benefit from mentoring by ELT professionals so that they could become speakers at conferences. And so they ran their competition. On the Eve side, we have some people who want to be mentors for us. So they're top professionals, Marjorie Rosenberg, Sarah Mercer, people like this. So we put out a call and we got lots of interest. We found 8 mentors and we matched them with the mentees. So for 3 months, they were mentored in speaking at a conference. And then at the end of that program, which was really successful, the young African teachers spoke at an event that we had held online, and we invited everybody. We did it on Facebook as this one's being done, and that was a kind of pilot program for a mentoring program that we want to continue doing. So because that was so successful, we're going to replicate it again with Africa this year. So we had people from all over Africa, Kenya, Senegal, Cameroon, etc., etc. So we're going to do that again this autumn. And we're also hoping to work with ELTAM, which is in North Macedonia, to do the same thing. So we'll hopefully run 2 mentoring programs this year. And Latin America is probably also going to be quite interested. So I think that the mentoring program will gradually become more and more important in the work that we're doing, because it really brings results, and people are excited about it.
Such an exciting initiative, isn't it? Because a lot of teachers, they have so much to share, and they just do not know how to start, and they're afraid of looking unprofessional. And my advice is just start talking about what you are doing, because what you are doing is unique, because nobody else is doing it. But of course, people need to go through quite a lot of psychological barriers, right?
Yes. Yes, I think so. I think it's a lot about confidence, and that moment that probably we all have as teachers, where we say, actually, what I'm doing could be quite interesting for other people. We were all there at one time, and so it's really just a question of giving them a hand up, and for them to progress in their profession.
And that's also interesting that, talking about my personal experience, thinking back about my first talks and workshops, when I'm thinking about them, I think it's a nightmare. That's awful. I shouldn't have done that, really. And then if I have a chance to watch a video, and I watch a video, and I'm telling to myself, oh, actually, that was a good workshop. Not perfect, but that was a good workshop. And sometimes we create some ideas in our heads which are simply not true. And recordings may help. I think.
Exactly.
And mentoring can help.
Oh, mentoring, I think it was really, really successful. I mean, we really had some top professionals mentoring them. And that's a wonderful thing, to be mentored. I mean, I wish when I was, back in the day, I wish I'd had some mentoring to help me, would have kind of progressed, things would have progressed a lot quicker, I guess.
Yeah, because
we tend to learn from experience.
Yeah, and you don't really have people whom you can show your presentation before the talk, because your colleagues are busy, your family members, they do not want to be involved, and you can't talk to many people about it, and probably mentors may help. If someone now listening to us will decide about having a mentor, what can be the first step? Maybe not only via Equal Voices and ALT, but just how can you find a mentor in an English language teaching industry?
I think, yeah, that's a very good question, actually. I mean, I think that being on social media really helps, and creating, getting into a personal learning network and finding people who you find interesting, or getting to know people. And then I suppose what you'd have to do is to say, well, would you mind mentoring me? I think there may be some other groups that are offering mentoring, but I'm not quite sure. And then I suppose there might be, something where you ask for mentoring and you maybe offer something in return. So I'm not quite sure about that, to be honest. It's a really good question. I know that I belong to a publishing group on Facebook, and they have set up mentoring for certain skills. So again, I think it's really a question of getting into social media, finding your groups, and then finding who could possibly mentor you.
Well, quite a lot of conferences in Russia nowadays, they offer kind of study buddy system of mentoring. Well, when all the speakers are chatting together in a kind of chat somewhere on Telegram or WhatsApp, or doesn't really matter where, and then we work in groups, and one speaker will mentor another speaker. And I think this is a good idea, because I've been going through this system for quite a long time, and when I'm being mentored, when I'm being moderated, as they call it, that's such useful experience. That's such useful experience.
I think that's good for conferences, and in fact, you reminded me that IATEFL, certainly they used to, I don't know whether they still do, had a mentoring program, because one year I was a mentor for a teacher, a speaker that had come from Africa. I think it was his first time speaking. So for first time speakers, they matched them up with mentors. That's a really, really good idea. Maybe something that should be integrated into conferences generally.
Yeah, I mean, you have other speakers, and other speakers can help each other. That's for sure. And I think when you've done it once and you see that it's not really an exam, it's not a test, it's other people helping you to deliver better talk, you change your attitude toward this kind of moderation of your talks before the conference, and that's a good model which can be initiated by conference organizers, I guess.
Yes.
And another interesting idea I wanted to share, we've been talking about gender equality, we've been talking about L1, L2 equality, and at our conference called TRConf, it's an annual conference we run in Russia, we integrated one more principle. We have 20% of time speakers, because that's very important. It's very important for people to have been frozen. It's
sorry, I missed that last bit, because there was a time delay.
Good. I'll repeat it. So we integrated a new principle according to which we have 20% at our conferences. We have 20% of first-time speakers.
Brilliant.
And
yes.
we think it's very useful giving voices to as many people as possible. Of course, there are royalty celebrities, and they are changing their views and talks, and they are different people, if you want, at every other event, and they do not repeat their talks, and they develop their ideas, of course, but that's important to give to give floor to
I really
other
like that.
people who are.
I think that's a really nice idea. And another idea I saw recently is, I don't know if you've become aware of Womentorship. Womentorship is a group. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. I can
Okay.
hear you okay.
It's a group started by Araceli Salas and some other people. I think Eleni Simoniodu, who I mentioned before, is involved. And they're having a symposium in the summer. It's a kind of women's type thing. And they're asking presenters to do just half an hour. They have to be half an hour. It has to be just a 10 minutes kind of setting the scene. And then you have to involve people in the discussion. So that's a nice way for first-time speakers to get involved, because it's not talking for an hour, you know, is quite hard when you start. Talking for 10 minutes, more or less anybody can do that. And, you know, if you have a group and you're discussing things, it's more like a workshop. So I like these ideas for getting people involved in talking about ideas.
Why do you think, Sue, it's still an issue? It's I'm talking about, let's be honest, open discrimination sometimes against women being plenary speakers, against non-natives being plenary speakers. Why do you think it's still the case in so many ELT public events?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not sure I know the answer. I think that it's about changing hearts and minds. And the truth is that is also, I mean, it's a not very palatable truth, but the truth is that some teachers in some areas want to have native speakers. Just yesterday, I had a request through WhatsApp from somebody in Africa, in Gabon or somewhere, saying, you know, I need some native speaker teachers for my school that I've just set up, because the students really want some, you know, they've got their teachers here, but they want some conversation with native speakers. So there is a demand in the market for, in certain areas, there's a demand for it. Now, I think since the whole, you know, since Silvana's plenary at ITEFL and all the discussion that's been going on in the past few years, I think things are getting better. I think people are realizing this idea that you have that a teacher is a teacher is a teacher.
We should just articulate a bit clearer. Silvana Richardson. If you don't know, that was an amazing plenary by Silvana Richardson. You can just Google ITEFL Silvana Richardson. It's a life-changing plenary. I'm so happy. I've been listening to the live version. Yeah,
it was brilliant. And I sense that things are changing, but it's a question of changing habits, hearts and minds, and, you know, different cultural expectations. But it's certainly, I feel that it's changing little by little.
Sometimes people mean quite well when they say native speakers. They do not really want to discriminate greatly, and they just want not a native speaker, they want a competent speaker from a different culture, because obviously you want to add some diversity. What's the border of being discriminative against people and of wanting to have some diversity for your students? Where is the borderline?
Yes, it's a very good question, and one that you have to think about a lot, I should think. You know, I do notice a change. I really do notice a change in the temperature and in the environment, and people are becoming much more aware of these issues, but we still have some way to go.
I think generally we are getting more and more positive about equality and about diversity. Well, at least now you can take a CELTA course being a non-native speaker. Remember, those were the days when you couldn't take a CELTA course, and it was designed for native speakers only. So of course we did progress greatly, and people stopped wanting. Luckily, teachers stopped wanting having only white, tall men from UK giving plenaries. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong being a white, tall person from UK. But you may remember some plenaries when you have like 5 plenary speakers, all of them in their 40s, 50s, all of them from the UK, and they're giving a talk somewhere, let's say Moldova, for 300 people from Moldova, with huge experience, with something to share, with a lot of things to share. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, when I was in a language school, I was a director of studies in a language school some years ago in Cambridge, and every year we would go to directors of studies conferences, and you know, you go to a teachers conference and 80% of the people there would be women. You go to the director of studies conference, you're immediately 90% of men, you know, and that was the case. I think it's got a bit better, but you know, it's a battle we're fighting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's a battle we are fighting. Maybe it's a battle which is moving to a kind of evolution and needs some time. And I love the fact that we started talking openly about it at conferences, and that organizations such Eve are appearing here and there. So if some conference organizers or other ELT organizations, if they want to have some concrete steps and changing their events to be more equal, can they contact Eve?
They certainly can, and we will provide them with advice. So not only, you know, if they have a conference and it looks okay, not at that stage, even before, if they say, how can we do this, you know, give us some advice, we can offer that, because we have a lot of people, a lot of contacts who have been through the same kind of thing, you know, and so we can certainly help with that. So do contact us. So that the website is Eve Calendar. Hang on just a second, I always get it wrong.
Well, if you type on Google "equal voices in ELT," you will have the web page.
Yeah. Eve Calendar, it's called. evecalendar.wordpress.
And I remember we've been talking to you before we got the platinum badge for the YARCOM, organized by the Dmytry Nikityn School, and we shared quite a lot of ideas, and I got a lot from the interview. Thank you. So let's finish with something optimistic, that a lot of things have been done, that we are progressing and being more equal in terms of nativeness, non-nativeness, in terms of gender representation, and in terms of giving voices to new speakers as well.
Yes.
And let's hope that we'll carry on, change the world to be a better place. Sue, thank you very much for being with us today. And
you're very welcome.
Thank you for what you are doing.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dmitry.
Have a good morning. Have a good day in Vancouver.
Yes. And have a good night in Sochi.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Talk to you
Bye.
Soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.